relevant across different fields, ranging from psychiatry and psychology to other disciplines such as anthropology, philosophy, and religious studies. So yes, over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you and namaskar. So, in the last session, we did discuss about unconscious as conceived by Carl G. Jung. And Jung is one of the few psychologists who are nearer to Eastern thought. Though not exactly they are following Eastern thought, but they are nearer to Eastern thought, along with Maslow, etc. And we did discuss about his concept of unconscious. He has divided unconscious into two parts. One is personal unconscious and the other one is collective unconscious. We did discuss that part also. Again, we did take up Jung's, the concurrence of Jung's unconsciousness. Concurrence of Jung unconsciousness, or the similarities to some extent, Jung's unconsciousness with that of Sri Aurobindo's subliminal. All the subliminal, subconscient in Indian view will be taken up from tomorrow systematically. But let us recap. Let us recap from what we discussed in our last session on similarities between Jung's unconscious and Sri Aurobindo's subliminal. We shall be recapping, although we did discuss this part also, just recapping. So in Jung's concept of the collective unconscious, we find some degree of concurrence, not in a totality, but some degree of concurrence. We do find some degree of concurrence between Jung and Sri Aurobindo. So there are altogether we can list four similarities between unconscious, that is to say collective unconscious of Jung and the subliminal as explained by Sri Aurobindo. In the subliminal, according to Sri Aurobindo, all our inner senses of sight, touch, hearing, etc. are in the subliminal. They are not in the surface consciousness. And accordingly, subliminal is therefore called the seer of inner things and supraphysical experiences. These are all supraphysical experiences, our sight, touch, hearing, etc. And they are in the subliminal, according to Sri Aurobindo. And he says, subliminal is the seer of our inner things. Now, what Jung has said? Jung ascribes such experiences means what experiences? Jung reports having had frequent supraphysical experiences such as visions, and Jung ascribes those experiences to the collective unconscious. So this is the first similarities between Jung's collective unconscious and Sri Aurobindo's subliminal, because Maharishi has said that the subliminal is the seer of inner things and supraphysical experiences. And likewise, Jung has also said that he had frequent visions of supraphysical experiences, and he ascribes those experiences to the unconscious, to the collective unconscious. So this is the first similarities between these two things. Then the second one is another striking resemblance between Sri Aurobindo's description of the subliminal and Jung's view of the collective unconscious lies in tracing the source of predictive, veridical, and deeply symbolic dreams. These are kinds of dreams. Veridical, predictive dreams we can understand, but what is veridical dreams? The veridical dreams means dreams that has events previously unknown to the dreamer. that are same as objective reality. The dreams which are same as the objective reality. অর্থাৎ আমার পৃথিবীত যিবোৰ ঘটি থকা ঘটনাৰ লগত they are not symbolic. আমাৰ পৃথিবীত ঘটি থকা অবজেক্টিভ পৃথিৱীৰ লগত অবজেক্টিভ ৰিয়েলিটিৰ লগত থকা যিবোৰ মিল থকা যিবোৰ আমি সপোন দেখা পাওঁ আৰু কিছুমান প্ৰেডিক্টিভ যিবোৰে ভৱিষ্যতৰ কথা আমাক আমাক ভৱিষ্যতৰ কথাৰ বিষয়ে আমাক জানিব দিয়ে আৰু কিছুমান আছে ডিপলি সিম্বলিক কৈছে according to Sri Aurobindo such dreams described by him such dreams come from the subliminal. According to whom? According to Sri Aurobindo. So according to Sri Aurobindo, such dreams, that is to say predictive dreams, veridical dreams, and deeply symbolic dreams, all come from the subliminal. And therefore, it has been described by him as a greater dream builder. So subliminal is the greater dream builder. As if tapei temolok hopunor srosta, then subliminally hopunor srosta, then the subconscious. Subconscious is not the dream builder. Rather, the subliminal is the dream builder. And Jung also ascribed to the collective unconscious. Jung also ascribes all these dreams to the collective unconscious. So this is the second similarities between Jung's collective unconscious and Sri Aurobindo's subliminal. And the third one is Sri Aurobindo ascribes the base part of ourselves. And what are the base part of ourselves? Our art, our poetry, our philosophy. These are the base part of humanity, nothing else. Art, poetry, philosophy, etc. Sri Aurobindo ascribes this beautiful or best part of ourselves to the influences emanating from the subliminal. So the source of our base part is subliminal. And accordingly, Maharishi ascribes those base part of ourselves to the influences emanating from the subliminal. And now Jung's. So Jung considers the archetypal images of the collective unconscious to represent some of the highest values of the human psyche. So archetypal images represent the highest values of the human psyche. And archetype is one of the constituent of the Jung's collective unconscious, which we have already discussed in our last session. So what is archetype? We did discuss in a comprehensive manner. So according to Jung, archetypal images represent the highest values of human being. And archetypal images or the archetype are one of the constituents of the Jung's collective unconscious. And Sri Aurobindo ascribes the base part of ourselves, that is to say poetry, art, philosophy, etc., to the influences emanating from the subliminal. So this is the third similarities between Jung's collective unconscious and Sri Aurobindo's subliminal. Then the fourth one, the most significant resemblance between the concept of subliminal and the collective unconscious of Jung. Collective unconscious lies in that both are regarded as transpersonal. Both are. So subliminal is also regarded as the transpersonal, as well as collective unconscious is also regarded as the transpersonal or extending beyond the individual consciousness. What is transpersonal? So transpersonal, according to Maslow's comment that I consider humanistic, third force of psychology to be
আসলে
transitional.
লালসা দিয়ে
Why
দিবেন না
transitional? It is a preparation for a still higher fourth psychology. We did discuss this thing. That is to say, the transpersonal, transhuman, centered in the cosmos rather than in human needs and interests, going beyond humanness, identity, self-actualization, and the like. So our subliminal consciousness uh, extends beyond our individual consciousness. So both are regarded as transpersonal. It beyonds our individuality. It goes beyond our individual consciousness. So these are the four similarities between Jung's collective unconscious and Sri Aurobindo's subliminal. Then there are few distinction between Jung's collective unconscious and Sri Aurobindo subliminal. What are those distinctions? According to Sri Aurobindo, all parts of the being and corresponding level of consciousness. So mind is a part, but mental consciousness is a plan. This thing will be taken up. But for now, all parts of our being, has a corresponding level of consciousness, uh, in the universe. So if I have a mind, there is a mental consciousness. If I have a vital, so there is a vital consciousness. But according to Sri Aurobindo, all parts of the being and corresponding level of consciousness, that is to say physical, vital, mental, subconscious, inconscient, are both individual and universal. So there is an individual mind, there is an universal mind. There is an individual vital. There is also a universal vital consciousness. So this thing will be taken up. So, but the main thing is, according to Sri Aurobindo, all these parts of the being and the corresponding levels of consciousness are both individual and universal. But whereas Jung uses the term collective to mean what is common to all mankind only. What is common to all mankind. Sri Aurobindo uses the term universal. So universal is not equivalent to Jung's the word collective, because collective means what is common to all mankind only. But by universal, Sri Aurobindo means what is common to everything in the universe. Everything in the universe, including subhuman kingdom. So this is a very distinct difference between, this is a clear distinction between Jung's collective unconscious and Sri Aurobindo's subliminal. So all parts of the being and corresponding levels of consciousness, physical, vital, mental, subconscious, inconscient, are individual as well as universal. And by universal, the Aurobindo means what is common to everything in the universe, including the subhuman kingdom. But by the word collective, Zooms means only those things which are common to mankind only. And furthermore, in his concept of the unconscious, Jung does not distinguish, as Sri Aurobindo does, what is that among what is below the conscious, behind it, and above it. Sri Aurobindo distinguishes all these three things. According to Sri Aurobindo, what is behind the surface consciousness, it is called subliminal. What is below the surface consciousness, it is called subconscious. And what is above surface consciousness, it is called superconscious. But Jung does not but Jung does not distinguish. For Jung, the collective unconscious is collective unconscious only. As there is no division like subliminal, subconscious, superconscious, etc., etc. So these are the two basic difference between Jung's collective unconscious and Sri Aurobindo's subliminal. So now let us discuss comparison between Freud's unconscious and Jung's unconscious now. Because both have spoken about unconscious, but there are certain similarities and certain differences between them. The unconscious between Jung and Freud. Unconscious between Jung and Freud. So there are some similarities as well as differences between Freud's and Jung's view of the unconscious. And what are those similarities and dissimilarities? Unconscious or kotha Freudeu koise, Jungeu koise. Kitu kisuman mil ase, kisuman omil ase. তেওঁলোকৰ মাজত পাৰ্থক্য আছে, কিছুমান ক্ষেত্ৰত মিল আছে। আৰু এইখিনি আলোচনা কৰোতে আমি আসলতে ফ্ৰয়েডৰ আনকনসিয়াস আৰু জুঙৰ আনকনসিয়াসৰ বিষয়ে আমি ফাৰ্ডাৰ ইনফৰমেশন গ্যাদাৰ কৰিব পাৰিম। In his earlier topographical theory, what is topographical theory? By topographical theory, Freud divided the map of consciousness. Map means the topography of the consciousness into three layers. What are those three layers? One is conscious, one is preconscious, and the third one is unconscious. These are the only three layers of mind, according to his topographical theory. Why it is called topographical theory? Because it is the explanation of the map of mind. So topographical analysis. So Freud looked upon the unconscious as the outcome of repression. So Freud unconscious is wholly consisting of repression of memories. Thus he at first held that the unconscious was made up of repressed materials only. But subsequently, in his structural theory, Freud did bring some modification. We will be taking up. So he at first held that the unconscious was made up of repressed materials only. According to what? According to Freud's topographical theory, unconscious is made up of repressed materials only, which is repressed from the memories. But Jung, on the other hand, maintained that besides repressions, unconscious is made up of repressions, all right. But the personal unconscious contains also long forgotten memories and subliminal impressions. But according to Freud unconscious is made up only of repressed material. But Jung's personal unconscious is made up of two things. One is repression, a repressed material, as well as long forgotten memories and subliminal impression. So Freud unconscious was an outcome of repression only. Freud unconscious. Number two, thus unconscious was made up of repressed material only, according to Freud. But according to Jung, besides repressions, the personal unconscious contains also long forgotten memories and subliminal impressions. So this is the first difference between the unconscious as conceived by Freud as well as Jung. But in his later structural theory, And what was the structural theory? By structural theory, Jung divided the mental apparatus. By topographical theory, he divided the layers of mind into 3 layers: conscious, unconscious, and preconscious. But by structural theory, Freud divided the mental apparatus. That is to say, the whole mind is composed of 3 elements, according to Freud, according to his structural theory. And what are those 3 things? We know. So it is the id. So Freud spoke of the id as the primary stuff. Id. And id is, what is id? Instincts. Sahajato pravritti buramar. Sahajato pravritti. Id. And ego and superego, other 2 components, which are subsequently developed. So Freud spoke of the id as the primary stuff, out of which the other 2 structural components of personality, ego and superego, subsequently developed. But according to Freud, id is wholly unconscious. According to Freud, id, that is to say this instinctional urges or energy, is wholly unconscious and consists of instinctual drives. So id consists of instinctual drives only, and it is unconscious. So Freud's later concept of unconscious concurred with Jung's in regarding the unconscious as consisting of instinct as well as what is repressed. So later, Freud includes instinct as one of the elements of his unconscious. The পৰৱৰ্তী অৱস্থাত এই সহজাত প্ৰবৃত্তি ৰিপ্ৰেছ মেটেৰিয়েলৰ সৈতে আনকনচিয়াছৰ ফ্ৰয়েডে অন্তৰ্ভুক্ত কৰিছিল. So Freud later concept of the unconscious concurred with Jung's in regarding the unconscious as consisting of instincts as well as what is repressed. Earlier, according to Freud, unconscious is made up wholly with repressed material. But after the development of the structural theory, he later on included this instinctual drive in his concept of unconscious. But there is a difference, still there is a difference with Jung here. And what is that difference? Jung attributed the repressed memories to the personal unconscious and regarded the instincts as belonging to the collective unconscious. যদিও ফ্রয়েডে পৰৱৰ্তী অৱস্থাত ইনষ্টিংচুৱেল ড্ৰাইভছক আনকনচিয়াছৰ উপাদান হিচাপে অন্তৰ্ভুক্ত কৰে, যদিও আনকনচিয়াছ ইনষ্টিংচনেল ড্ৰাইভ জুঙে ইতিমধ্যেই অন্তৰ্ভুক্ত কৰি থৈছিল, কিন্তু সেয়া কালেক্টিভ আনকনচিয়াছৰ অংশ হিচাপে, not as part of the personal unconscious. গতিকে ইয়াত আমি যিটো ডিফাৰেন্স, so later on Freud revised his components of unconscious and included instinctual drives in his concept of unconscious along with repressed material. Though Jung included instinctual drives in his concept of unconscious, still it was as belonging to the collective unconscious only. So according to Jung, instinct is part of his collective unconscious, and repressed material along with long forgotten memories are the materials or are the components of his personal unconscious. Originally, Freud included repressed material as belonging to his concept of unconscious, but later on he included instinctual drives as one of the components of his concept of as as one of the components of his concept of unconscious. So the main points to be noted that out of primary staff id, ego, superego subsequently developed. So this is the first point to be noted. Then the second, Freud's later concept of the unconscious consists of instincts as well as what is repressed. Second point. Third point, originally wholly unconscious id consists of instinctual drives only. So id is made up of, according to Freud, id is made up only of instinctual drives only. So that is why automatically instinctual drive became one of the component of his concept of unconscious. But according to Jung, the repressed material he was part of his personal unconscious, while instincts was his part of his collective unconscious. Then the third difference between Freud and Jung regarding the unconscious lies in the distinction made by Jung between the personal and the collective unconscious, and the far greater importance given to the latter. Jung gave more importance to the collective unconscious than to the personal unconscious. And he divided unconscious into two categories. But Freud did not divide his unconscious into two groups. According to Freud, it is simply unconscious. But Jung's unconscious had been divided into two categories. One is personal unconscious, and the other one is collective unconscious. And Jung gave more importance to collective unconscious. So, and it is one of the major differences between Freud's concept of unconscious and Jung's concept of unconscious. Then there is another major difference between Freud's unconscious and Jung's unconscious. Freud and Jung differed also in their emphasis on the role of the unconscious in human life. Role of the unconscious in human life. According to Freud's theory, the unconscious plays two main roles. What are those two roles according to Freud? In the first place, being a storehouse of instinctual drives, unconscious provides the biological energies which motivate all behavior. According to whom? According to Freud. So who supplies the unconscious? The instinctual drives, and because it is the storehouse of instinctual drives. What is the storehouse of instinctual drives? It is the unconscious. So unconscious supplies the unconscious supplies the biological energies, because unconscious is consisting of instinctual drive. So surface consciousness is being provided with biological energies to motivate our outward behavior. So from where we get biological energies? We get biological energies to motivate our behavior from unconscious. Why biological? Because unconscious is consisting of instinctual drives. This is the first role. played by unconscious. And the second role, due to its contents of what has been repressed, because certain things are repressed, and repressed material are part of unconscious. And it causes various types and degrees of disturbances. So while instinctual drives provides the biological energies which motivate all behavior, on the other hand, unconscious is also consisting of repressed material. And this repressed material causes various types and degrees of disturbances. Causes of this, and as a ranging from the psychopathology of everyday life, such as slips of tongue and selective forgetting, to psychiatric disorders of the various psychoneurosis and psychosis. এই যে ৰিপ্ৰেছড, আমি যিবোৰ ৰিপ্ৰেছ কৰোঁ ছাৰফেচ কনচিয়াছনেছৰ পৰা আৰু যিবোৰ আনকনচিয়াছৰ অংশ হৈ যায়, তাৰ কাৰণেই এইবোৰ সাইকোলজিক্যাল ডিসঅৰ্ডাৰ আমাৰ হয়। আৰু কোনবোৰ সাইকোলজিক্যাল ডিসঅৰ্ডাৰ বুলি কৈছে, স্লিপ অফ টাং। আমি কেতিয়াবা কিছুমান কথা যে আমাৰ মুখৰ পৰা জিভা পিছল খায়, নকবলগীয়া কথা আমি কওঁ, তাৰ কাৰণো আনকনচিয়াছ বুলি কৈছে। আমি আমাৰ অবচেতন মনত বা আনকনচিয়াছত থকা কিছুমান কথা আমাৰ হঠাৎ ওলাই যায়, আমি কব নোৱাৰাকৈ। কৈছে যে secondly, due to its content of what has been repressed, it causes various types and degrees of disturbances, ranging from the psychopathology of everyday life, such as slips of tongue and selective forgetting, even selective forgetting, to psychiatric disorders of the various psychoneurosis and psychosis. These are all psychological disorders. So how these are caused? It is the repressed material causes this type of psychological disturbances, which includes all these things. And it is this latter role of the unconscious related to the abnormal and negative aspect of behavior that looms large in Freud's theory. And it is the dominant thing in Freud's theory, looms large. So it is this latter role of the unconscious. What is the latter role? That the repressed material causes various types and degrees of disturbances. And what are the examples of those disturbances? Ranging from the psychopathology of everyday life, such as slip of tongue and selective forgetting, to psychiatric disorders of the various psychoneurosis and psychosis. And it is this latter role of the unconscious related to abnormal and negative aspect of behavior that looms large in Freud's theory. All the constructive and creative aspects of behavior were attributed by Freud to the sublimating activities of the conscious ego, not to the subliminal, as done by Jung. But so all the constructive and creative aspects of our behavior were attributed by Freud to the sublimating activities of the conscious ego. Sublimating মানে একেবাৰে অলপ উচ্চ পৰ্যায়ৰ বিশুদ্ধ কৰা, পৰিশুদ্ধ, অৰ্থাৎ আমাৰ যেটো কনসিয়াস ইগোৰ মানে বিশুদ্ধ অংশটোৰ পৰা আমি এই কামবোৰ কৰো বুলি কৈছে, যিবোৰ all the constructive and creative aspect of behavior were attributed by Freud to the sublimating activities of the conscious ego. On the other hand, Jung, while recognizing the role of the unconscious, both personal and collective, in psychopathological behavior, maintain also that the unconscious is the source of creative ideas and that archetypal images are among the highest values of the human psyche. So the constructive and creative aspect of behavior attributed by Jung to what? To our archetypal images. And archetypal images are part of collective unconscious according to Jung. According to Jung. So the points to be noted that according to Freud's theory, the unconscious plays two roles. Number one. And what are those two rules? Firstly, unconscious provides the biological energies for motivating behaviors. This is the second point to be noted. And what is the second rule? Repressed contents or repressed materials. Repressed materials or repressed contents cause various types and degrees of psychological disorders. And what are those psychological disorders? Psychopathology of everyday life, so slip of tongue and selective forgetting to psychiatric disorders of the various psychoneurosis and psychosis. And this latter role of the unconscious that looms large in Freud's theory. And the next point to be noted, Freud attributed all the constructive and creative aspect of behavior to whom? To what? To the sublimating activities of the conscious ego. But Jung has also recognized the role of the unconscious, maintained that the unconscious is the source of creative ideas. But unconscious, according to Jung, it is collective unconscious. And what is that component? That archetypal images are among the highest values of the human psyche. So according to Jung, conscious ego is not the source. According to Jung, Jung attributed all our constructive and creative aspects. Jung attributed to the unconscious, but unconscious means to the collective unconscious, and more specifically to the archetypal images, because archetypal images are one of the components of his concept of collective unconscious. Then the last difference between these two, that is to say Freud unconscious and Jung's unconscious, a well-known difference between Freud and Jung pertains to their concept regarding the nature of the instinctual energies of the unconscious. So we have discussed instinctual energy is one of the components of Freud's concept of unconscious. But how the very instinctual energies are made up of? What are the components? So, according to Freud's earlier views, the instinctual energies of the id, which he termed the libido, according to him, id, or you can call it as libido, L-I-B-I-D-O, libido. So, according to Freud, instinctual energy is essentially sexual. I am repeating the word, essentially sexual. But subsequently, Freud reformulated the concept of instincts. So it was his original idea. So id is made up of only sexual drives, essentially sexual drives. It is his original concept. But later he reformulated the concept of instincts. And what is the later formulation? Now he spoke of two classes of instincts. Originally he was speaking of one kind of instincts originally. Now he is speaking of two kinds of instincts. And what are those two kinds? Now he is using a word eros, eros. Probably these are Greek words. So eros, eros or the life preservative instincts. One he calls life preservating instincts, which is called eros, eros, including the sexual instinct. So these life preservating instincts include the sexual instinct too. And what is the other kind of instincts formulated by Freud later on? It is called thanatos, 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 or the death instinct. So later he divided instincts into two categories. One is life preservating instincts and the other one is death instinct. Other one is death instinct. Death instinct is called thanatos, Thanatos, thanatos. And the life preservating instinct is called as eros, eros, eros. So in this latter formulation, libido came to be regarded as the energies of eros, that is to say the life preservative instincts, as well as aggression, turning away from pleasure, etc. That is to say opposite. Because of the death instinct, he has called it death instinct. So there are only two instinctual drives within us. Later, according to Freud's later formulation. Originally, he was speaking only of instinct consisting only of sexual drives. But later he reformulated and he divided instincts into two parts. One is called eros, that is to say life preservative instincts, and the other one is death instinct. And what is death instinct? Turning away from pleasure, etc., as the expression of thanatos. But there is a peculiar thing. This subsequent modification of Freud's concept of the instinctual energies never dominated psychoanalytical theory. Though Freud reformulated his idea of id, but reformulation could not dominate the psychoanalytical theory. The id and its libido have tended to retain their exclusively sexual connotation. Though Freud reformulated, still it was not looked into, or it was it could not draw the attention of any psychologist. So his original idea of id and libido continues to dominate the psychoanalytical theory. But on the other hand, Jung, what is his concept of instinctual drives? Who did not place much emphasis on the role of the sexual impulse. It's categorical, rather it's a rival theory. According to Freud, Freud gave exclusive importance to sexual drive. But Jung did not. So who did not place much emphasis on the role of the sexual impulse, regarded the libido as a general psychic energy. Psychic means inner. So originally, according to Freud, libido is consisting of essentially sexual drives only. Later he reformulated and divided instincts into two categories. One is eros and the other one is thanatos. Eros is life preservating instinct, and the thanatos is the death instinct. But still, this subsequent modification of Freud's concept of the instinctual energies never dominated psychoanalytic theory. id and its libido, that is to say, original concept of id and its libido have tended to retain their exclusively sexual connotations. But on the other hand, Jung, who did not place much emphasis on the role of the sexual impulse, regarded the libido as a general psychic energy, which expresses itself in numerous forms. Numerous forms. It could be of numerous forms. And sexual urge is one of those numerous forms. So this is a major fundamental difference between Jung and Freud. So instincts, according to Jung, it can manifest itself in numerous forms, including the sexual urge. And according to Adler, one of the rival psychologists of Freud, according to Adler, the instinct, according to Adler, power is the main instinct, not sex. But according to Jung, Jung says id and libido is made up of general psychic energy, which expresses itself in numerous forms, including sexual urge, the urge for power, etc., etc. So this is one of the major and radical difference between Freud's concept of id and the Jung's concept of id and libido. So the points to be noted that the difference pertains to their concept regarding the nature of the instinctual energies of the unconscious. And instinctual energies or libido, as called by Freud, are essential sexual, according to Freud, in his earlier concept, in his earlier theory. Subsequently, he spoke of two classes of instincts: eros, or the life-preserving instincts, including sexual instincts, and thanatos, or the death instinct. So libido came to be regarded as the energies of eros, and turning away from pleasure, etc., as the expression of thanatos, that is to say, death instincts. But this subsequent formulation of Freud's concept never dominated psychoanalytic thinking. Never dominated. Rather, it was almost overlooked. It was overlooked. So the id and its libido tending to retain their exclusively sexual connotations. But Jung did not place much emphasis on the role of the sexual impulse. Jung regarded libido as a general psychic energy which expresses itself in numerous forms, including the sexual urge, the urge for power, etc. So from tomorrow onwards, I will be taking up Sri Aurobindo's concept of consciousness. So I shall be taking up consciousness in a detailed manner, and as well as parts of our being and plans of consciousness. So from tomorrow onwards, I shall be taking up all those things, and only incidentally, I shall be referring to Western psychology. But mainly, I shall be taking up concept after concept. First, I shall be taking up parts of our being, and parts and plans of our being, plans of consciousness and parts of our being. Number one. Number two, the very definition of consciousness, because psychology is the science of consciousness. What is consciousness after all? And the third chapter, I shall be taking up psychological disturbances, because our very title is Psychological Health and Perfection of Personality. So psychological health will be taken up after completing parts of being and plans of consciousness, followed by discussion on consciousness itself, and then I shall be taking up psychological disturbances. So till tomorrow, let me allow to conclude here. And if you want to interact, we can interact for a few minutes. Thank you and namaskar to all. If you want to interact, we can interact for a few minutes. We have few minutes. And we shall be incidentally discussing the similarities between Freud, Freud's unconscious with Sri Aurobindo's subconscious. That thing will also be incidentally taken up. So far we were discussing about Jung's unconscious with Sri Aurobindo's subliminal, but we shall be taking up Freud's unconscious with Sri Aurobindo's subconscious, and then Jung's concept of libido with Sri Aurobindo's concept of vital. What are the similarities and what are the dissimilarities? Freudে যেটো আনকনসিয়াসৰ কথা কৈছে সেইটো তাৰ লগত কিছু পৰিমাণে you will find concurrence between Freud's unconscious with that of subconscious of Sri Aurobindo. আৰু জুঙৰ যেটো জেনাৰেল লিবিডো জেনাৰেল সাইকিক এনাৰ্জি বুলি কৈছে তাৰ হৈতে শ্ৰী অৰবিন্দই যেটো ভাইটাল আমি যেটো মন প্ৰাণ শৰীৰ বুলি কওঁ প্ৰাণ তাক ইংৰাজী শব্দ ভাইটাল বুলি কোৱা হৈছে এই প্ৰাণ তত্ত্বৰ লগত আমি কিছু শ্ৰী জুঙৰ যেটো জেনাৰেল সাইকিক এনাৰ্জি লিবিডো এজ জেনাৰেল সাইকিক এনাৰ্জিৰ আমি কিছু সাদৃশ্য বিচাৰি পাম আৰু সেইটো আমি কেতিয়া কৰিম আমি এই আলোচনা যেতিয়া আমি সাবকনসাইন্টৰ বিষয়ে যেতিয়া আমি আলোচনা কৰিম তেতিয়া ফ্ৰয়েডৰ আনকনসিয়াসৰ হৈতে সাবকনসাইন্টৰ কি সাদৃশ্য আছে আমি সেইটো আলোচনা কৰিম আকৌ যেতিয়া আমি ভাইটাল প্ৰাণ তত্ত্বটোৰ বিষয়ে এজ এ পাৰ্ট অফ বিইং আমি আলোচনা কৰিম তেতিয়া জুঙৰ কনসেপ্ট অফ লিবিডোৰ হৈতে আমাৰ ভাৰতীয় দৃষ্টিত প্ৰাণ তত্ত্বৰ কি মিল আছে সাদৃশ্য আছে আমি সেইখিনিও আলোচনা কৰিম প্ৰসংগক্ৰমে আৰু যদি কাৰো একো খুদিব লগা নাই দেন উই ক্যান কনক্লুড
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I, on behalf of Capacity Building Center, Cotton University, once again thank you, sir, for this wonderful lecture. And we have completed our 15th session today. And it is very interesting to talk about these very famous names in terms of Western discourse of psychology, Carl Jung, Freud, and how sir has, of course, tried to explain it with reference to knowledge systems out of Indian origin with reference to Sri Aurobindo's work, of course. Thank you so much, sir. Big thank you to our technical team for continuously supporting us for this event. Thank you, esteemed participants, for taking out your valuable time and joining us here today. So we'll meet again tomorrow. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you and namaskar to all.
Thank you, sir.